This is a life coaching demonstration focusing on some very common mistakes that I've seen coaches make trying to support someone who is venting, offloading. The simulation I've set up where I've briefed my friendly AI to play a client is a simulation that's very common. It's somebody who is experiencing being triggered by global political and economic stress. They've been exposed to a lot on social media and they're sitting with their coach, as in this one, and it could be you. You might have experienced this, and they're struggling. And now as a coach, you have so many, let's say, barriers to overcome here, including where is the line between therapy and coaching? How do we actually respond? Do we ask just the typical solution-focused questions? Do we dig into some of the story or not? So I'm going to be showing you 4 common, let's say, don't do this responses. So I will first show you what not to do. Okay, so first will be me demonstrating what not to do with the client. I'll explain then why, and then I'll show you what to do instead. Very easy, simple, natural ways to hold space for somebody who really needs a moment to vent and who is currently experiencing what many people are experiencing, which is this feeling of being triggered by continual global instability. So I will also then add a little bit of commentary around the ICF International Coaching Federation's PCC markers that are relevant for ACC, PCC, and MCC, really pointing out in a super simplified way what the ICF look for, what could stand out as a problem, and how to approach this with real mastery. So let's jump in with what not to do first. Hi, Sam. It's wonderful to see you again for coaching. What brings you to coaching today?
Hi. Honestly, I'm just really on edge lately. Every time I open the news or scroll online, it feels like the world is falling apart. Politics, the economy, wars, climate stuff, it's nonstop. I can feel my chest tighten just talking about it. I'm exhausted, but I can't seem to stop checking. And now I keep wondering if I should leave the country. Like, is this even a safe place to build a future anymore? I don't know. I just feel overwhelmed and kind of stuck in my head.
I understand. I really do understand exactly what you're going through, Sam. Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, I mean, okay. It's just, when you say that, I don't know. Part of me thinks, sure, everyone's stressed, but it doesn't really make it feel lighter for me because it feels pretty constant, like it's in my body all the time. I wake up tense, I go to bed tense. And when people say they get it, I kind of wonder if they actually do, or if they're just saying that. I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it comes across that way, but yeah, I do get it. I mean, we all get it, surely. Everyone's living in the same kind of global environment.
Okay, I guess that makes sense logically. When you say we all get it, it kind of makes me feel like maybe I'm making too big a deal out of this. Like I should just be handling it better or something. So yeah, I don't know what to say now. I mean, I know the world's a mess. I know everyone's dealing with it. I just feel really worn down by it.
I think that example of how not to respond is pretty obvious, right? The big thing I want to highlight there is when we think we're showing empathy by saying, I understand. And this is regardless of what our clients are going through. If a client is experiencing stress at work, if they're experiencing a health challenge, if they're experiencing a relationship challenge, even if our life path is identical, even if we like genuinely feel like we understand. There's something about saying, I understand, that creates dissonance. It creates a break in rapport and trust. And it makes the person even subconsciously ask themselves, but how do you understand? Because the truth is we don't really understand. So I'm going to show you a few more examples of what not to do. And then we'll lean into what to replace these with in a gentle, simple, natural way. Hi, Sam. Welcome to your coaching session. You know, you mentioned on the phone that you wanted to chat to me, so I'm curious what brings you to coaching today.
Hiya, thanks. Honestly, it's the same stuff I mentioned before. I feel really shaken by what's going on in the world right now. Every time I check the news or scroll social media, it's just crisis after crisis. Politics, money, wars, everything feels unstable. It's starting to mess with my nervous system, I think. I'm tense all the time, and I keep spiraling into this question of whether I should even stay in this country or think about immigrating somewhere else. I don't know what's fear and what's actually rational anymore.
You know, Sam, if you take a moment, I invite you to consider that it really could be worse, right? Where we're not in World War II, we aren't having people bomb our houses. You know, you're living, as far as I'm aware, in quite a comfortable environment. Your day-to-day life is pretty safe. So I just feel really moved to say to you, it could be worse, and perhaps you should be focusing on the positive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I know it could be worse, obviously. I'm not denying that. I guess when you put it that way, it just makes me feel kind of silly for being this affected. So, yeah, I probably should focus on the positive. I don't really know how, though. I'm sort of blank now.
Could you tell I was even feeling uncomfortable coaching that way? All right, couple of tips here, couple of hopefully obvious if you spotted them. And the ICF are pretty big on this, although most folks don't get to see this language and these details until they're pretty deep into the ICF path, learning to be a PCC marker, mentor, or like myself, as a director of education. So because my company and my programs have been ICF accredited since 2012, and my team and I have been helping and guiding folks to achieve ACC, PCC, and MCC ever since then, we've seen behind the curtain. And one of the sound bites that I've accumulated over time and turned into a little bit of a sticky note in my mind that we teach our coaches is don't minimize, don't miss, and don't dismiss, okay? So minimizing is if the client is displaying any discomfort, any vulnerability, we don't minimize. We certainly don't tell them to be positive. We don't say it could be worse, which is what I did in the example, right? So no minimizing, neither do we want to miss. Now this is where it's tricky because missing means we ignore it. So if I had just skipped it entirely, pretended that my client Sam didn't complain and just carried on with the coaching mechanically, like perhaps asking, well, what would you like by the end of the session and anything like that, it would have been missing. So we don't want to minimize, but neither do we want to dismiss or miss, right? So dismissing would have also just been casual, offhand, that, yeah, okay, thanks for telling me that, and let's just dismiss it. They're all similar, but it's just a little way to remember. Now, what happens frequently is that coaches are so afraid to lean into therapy, and because therapy and coaching are distinct modalities, where is the line? Where is the line where you're heading into that territory? And what I've seen coaches do is they swing the pendulum too far the other way, and they become so afraid of the client's emotional venting, sharing, vulnerability that they tend to become robotic and mechanical. You, as a human being, as a caring person with a heart, you certainly don't need to dismiss, or minimize. You certainly don't need to get robotic. We can respond. We can respond like human beings. It's just about how we respond. And so I'm going to show you two more, just quick ones, hopefully, to show you what else not to do. And then we can lean straight into what to do instead, which should clear up the confusion around what a coach can actually coach without heading into the territory of counseling or therapeutic practice. If you benefit from these simulations, from these life coaching demonstrations, which I've heard from folks that are really benefiting, please let's tell the bots, let's tell the YouTube algorithm by liking, subscribing, and perhaps putting a comment. I'm getting lots of great ideas from you all about what simulations you want to hear. Do you want to hear less ICF, more ICF? Do you want to hear something simpler, shorter, around a particular challenge that you're having? I'm available to hear your suggestions. That's what my team and I are here for. So let me know in the comments, and I look forward to being able to create those videos.
So the other night, I was scrolling on my phone way later than I should have been. I kept telling myself just one more thing, but it didn't stop. I saw this thread about the economy, and then something about elections, and then a video about conflict overseas, and my body just went into overdrive. My heart was racing. I felt this pit in my stomach. I put the phone down, but it was like my nervous system didn't get the memo. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, running through worst-case scenarios. Like, what if things really fall apart?
Yeah.
What if I'm being naive staying here?
Yeah, look.
What if I'm already too late to make a smart move?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think I finally fell asleep around 3, but even then it was restless. I woke up tired and kind of wired, like I never really shut off.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Sam. You know, I believe very fully that if we focus on negative, we attract it into our lives. And so the problem with what I'm seeing is that you're focusing so much on these external realities that I'm concerned that you bring this into your life. And I've experienced this firsthand. You know, I've had in my own life where I've focused on negative things, and the consequences have really been not ideal.
I mean, I wasn't really trying to attract anything. I was just reacting, I guess. It didn't feel like a choice in the moment. When you say that, though, it kind of makes me feel like this is my fault somehow. Like I'm creating the stress by thinking the wrong way. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have brought this up. I feel a bit shut down right now.
Okay, so I know this one's a little touchy, potentially controversial. This is the difference between the role of teacher, mentor, and coach. And perhaps even a skilled mentor and a skilled teacher starts to realize that when we impose beliefs on other people, there is a risk, right? There is a risk. And we start to set up a plus minus, you know, like I know something you don't know, instead of a coaching partnership. So in this example you heard, I was very much focused on me. I was focused on what I believe, and I was bringing that to the client, and it shut her down. She even said that she felt very shut down. So when somebody is asking for our opinion and they want our role as a mentor, the ICF are very clear on this. We need to clearly distinguish the role of mentor or teacher from coach. And this needs to be a part of the original agreements. When we've discussed with the client what it is that they want from the coaching, if everybody's clear and upfront about expectations, about roles, it's absolutely natural that folks have other roles to play. And I do believe, if I've understood correctly, that the ICF aren't saying you can't be a manager or a leader or a mentor or share your beliefs, etc. Of course not, but not in the space of pure coaching. So what a lot of the people that I work with, my clients, my students, do, because about 85%, even more, are what I call blended coaches. In the real world, they're going to lead, manage, consult, teach, guide, mentor, as well as coach, is that they need to be very clear up front that they are a blended coach, that they're not doing pure ICF coaching. They need to check that that's what the client wants, or separate it out so that there's a coaching session and then there's a mentoring session, and that they're distinct from each other and that it's all transparent and upfront. But what you heard there is the risk of bringing our beliefs. First of all, when somebody tells us something, this could even be a friend or a loved one, and they share something vulnerable, and immediately we turn it into a me song. Me, what happened to me, and my beliefs, and how I feel, instead of staying with you, instead of staying with the client. That is the first thing, and that's more subtle. Second, of course, is on top of that, I was adding my belief, and I was starting to actually make the client feel guilty and bad. Oh, I have a little saying that you're welcome to steal it. I want to make a t-shirt. Don't open your mind so much that your heart falls out. So even though we might be the kinds of people that are really open-minded, and we've done a lot of learning, and we have different philosophies and beliefs, I think it's so important to stay in compassion, to be willing as coaches to take a little stroll to see through somebody else's eyes, even if they represent a distinctly different position, belief system, value system to our own. As coaches, it's not our place to bring our me songs into the space. Last example of what not to do coming up next, and then we'll lean into some hopefully better examples.
So it's gotten to the point where I've started bringing it up with friends. At first, it was kind of casual, like, have you ever thought about leaving? But now it's turning into these heavier conversations about safety, money, politics, the future. Some of them are calm about it, some are panicking. And a couple basically told me I'm being dramatic. And honestly, that just adds more pressure. It's like, once I said it out loud, I can't unthink it anymore. And it's sitting with me all the time.
So Sam, what is your best solution for this?
My best solution? I don't know. That's kind of the problem. If I had a clear solution, I probably wouldn't feel like this. Being asked that just makes me feel like I'm supposed to have an answer ready. And I really don't. So I guess I don't have one. I'm feeling a bit stuck now.
All right, I'm certainly relieved that that is the last of the bad examples, or the what not to do. This one's more subtle. So coaches are taught to have solution-focused conversations, to ask questions that leads our client towards the future, the present, to not dig into the past. All excellent. We call this at InnerLifeSkills spiral up questions. Now, spiral up questions will serve you really well, but there's a time and place to not even ask a spiral up question. And that is when the client is venting, when they're purging, when they are sharing their fears, when they're being vulnerable. Because as you heard, when we cut into that sharing with a mechanical, non-backtracked, so we also didn't use any of our clients' words, response, and it's just, so what is your solution? It's premature and it's not ideal. So now I'm going to show you what to do instead. There are several ICF competencies that were in breach in those 4 examples of what not to do. Not only were we risking competency number 1, which is demonstrates ethical practice, where the ICF are very clear in their code of ethics, as well as the competency that we need to distinguish the professional role of coach. And the coach, very much the word partnering and partnership is the thing to lean into, and certainly not to in any way disrespect our client's position. Remember what I said about minimizing, dismissing, or missing entirely. Then in terms of embodying a coaching mindset, there's a lack of curiosity and openness and flexibility when I'm simply putting my opinions and putting my beliefs on the table. What you may have also noticed, if you're ICF literate, is that there was a lack of an agreement. This importance of establishing an outcome for a session, which is competency number 3, which is establishes and maintains agreements. Part of that is about setting up the whole coaching journey and agreeing to what that looks like with the client. But a very important aspect of that is determining what the client wants from a session. And in all the examples that I've just given you, though brief, none of them included me trying to find out what the client wanted from the session, which could have actually alleviated quite a lot of the damage, or the damage is a big word, right? Of the straying into territory that was really dismantling the trust and the rapport and the partnership that could have been created. Probably the biggest competencies that were being brought down with what's called contra evidence for the ICF is number 4, cultivates trust and safety. Because certainly I was not acknowledging and respecting my clients' perspectives, right? Or their feelings. I also wasn't showing empathy or support. I wasn't making it okay for them to feel what they were feeling. So that was a big, big part of it. Now, as coaches, we don't become cheerleaders either. We don't put on our pom-poms. And we certainly don't try to force a session to be positive. Then maintains presence is also, I did try to exaggerate that with my AI simulation, but she wouldn't stop talking. I was trying to show you talking over a client where we're meant to stay in the space of not knowing, and we're meant to also create this really safe presence for the client, and talking over them, even interrupting with, great, okay, would have been a problem. I didn't do that, but at some point I did try to interrupt her, which is not ideal. There is a way to interrupt a client if they've gone on for a very, very long time. And sometimes an ICF exam, in fact, quite often an ICF exam will put these kinds of scenarios on the table as a multiple choice test question. And that is that we wait for a natural pause. We very much gently interrupt to check if this is what the client wants. So we're just gently redirecting to what the client wants from the session. Sometimes the client is not fully aware that there's a difference between coaching and therapy. We should have made that clear up front, but they might just go down that rabbit hole and spend a lot of time there. Definitely listens actively was also in showing up as some contra evidence where we were interrupting again without purpose. I was intentionally not backtracking the client's words. I didn't use the client's words. I was just rambling on in my own little me mission. And I wasn't also honoring their tone of voice, right? I didn't have a visual of non-verbal cues, body language, but I'm pretty sure that would have echoed the tone of voice, and I wasn't matching that. So I wasn't really listening to my client, was I? I was on my own mission. And then, although this was not an example of mid to end session where evokes awareness number 7 and facilitates client growth competency number 8 really do show up the strongest, you could guess that we weren't going in that direction. So evokes awareness is really where we are creating a space where the client discovers, they discover something new about themselves beyond their current way of seeing. They discover not only some practical solutions, but something about their way of thinking, their way of experiencing who they are. And that would have really satisfied that. And you could probably tell if I'd continued in that way, we wouldn't have got there. And then finally, facilitates growth is how we often finish off a session, which I wasn't really showing in that example. But I doubt if I had continued down that road, there would have been much growth to talk about. And there certainly was a lack of partnership. And even the way we finish a session should ideally be in partnership. So that's the ICF piece. Now I'm going to try again with Sam. And I'll probably not do 4 separate examples. I'm probably going to do 1 example and give you 4 tips afterwards that you can take away from this video. Sam, it's wonderful, Sam, to be with you again. What brings you to coaching today?
Hi. Thanks. It's good to be here. What's bringing me today is this constant sense of unease I've been carrying. The world just feels so unstable right now, and it's really getting to me. I notice it especially when I'm on social media or reading the news. My body goes tense, my thoughts start racing, and I feel this low-level panic that doesn't really switch off. Lately, it's also turned into bigger questions about my future, like whether staying in this country actually makes sense for me, or if I should be considering something different. I don't have answers yet, but I know I don't want to keep feeling this overwhelmed all the time.
You don't want to keep feeling overwhelmed, Sam. That sounds really tough, and I'm sorry to hear that you're experiencing this. This is a safe space. I'm showing up fully for you. What do you need in the moment right now?
Thank you. Just hearing that helps a bit. Right now, I think what I need most is space to slow this down. It all feels so loud and urgent in my head, and I don't usually give myself permission to pause with it. I think I need help sorting out what I'm actually feeling versus what I'm absorbing from everything around me, and maybe just someone to sit with me in it without rushing me to fix it or decide anything yet.
I appreciate that fully, and there's something about the words you're using that I just want to reflect back to you for a moment and ask you how it feels to hear your own words. So I'm repeating your words back to you. Space to slow down, Sam, and permission to pause. What happens when you hear your own words back to you, Sam?
Wow. When you say them back like that, I actually feel my shoulders drop a little. It makes me realize how rarely I give myself that space, permission, pause. I'm usually pushing myself to stay informed, stay alert, stay on, like it's my responsibility to keep up with everything. Hearing my own words reflected back makes it feel okay to want something gentler, like maybe slowing down isn't avoidance. It's actually something I need right now.
Maybe it is something you need, and this physical response that you're feeling in your body That's something I'm quite curious about. It sounds like you're getting some really good feedback from your own body, Sam.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. As you say that, I'm noticing my breathing is deeper, slower. There's still tension there, but it feels more manageable. Like my body is saying, oh, we don't have to be braced for impact this second. I don't usually pay attention to that. I'm so focused on my thoughts and the bigger picture that I ignore what my body's already telling me. This feels like a small relief, but it's real.
So I'm actually quite interested in leaning a little bit more into that realness by asking you what you would like to leave with at the end of our session today, reflecting on the space to slow down, perhaps permission to pause, just sort of moving into perhaps more of this body awareness. Tell me what comes to mind when you think about what would make today really valuable, Sam.
When you put it that way, what feels valuable is leaving with something internal rather than a decision. I think I'd like to leave with a clearer sense of how to recognize when I'm getting overwhelmed before I'm already in it. Maybe an awareness of what pause actually looks like for me in real life, not just as an idea. If I could walk away feeling more connected to my own signals, my body, my breath, and trusting that I can respond to them instead of pushing through, that would feel really meaningful.
To be able to recognize the pause and how to recognize its opposite, right, which is the overwhelm. Does that sound about right?
Yes, that actually lands really clearly when you say it like that. Recognizing the pause and recognizing overwhelm as its opposite feels helpful. Like overwhelm isn't just something to power through, it's information, a signal. Saying it out loud, I notice I feel more grounded. Less like I'm failing when I get overwhelmed, and more like I'm learning how to listen earlier. That feels reassuring.
Yeah, I feel like just pausing myself for a moment to acknowledge what's actually happening. And tell me if I'm wrong, Sam, but I'm seeing you really starting to give yourself something significant already. What does that sound like?
You're not wrong. As you say that, I can feel it. I'm being gentler with myself instead of judging what's coming up. It feels like I'm offering myself a bit of compassion, which I don't usually do when I'm stressed like this. What feels significant is realizing I don't have to solve the world or my future right now. Just noticing what's happening and responding to it feels like something I can actually do.
Something you can actually do. So if you had to put into just a few words, like as a little bit of a affirmation or a declaration of your intention, what would you like us to do today?
Let me think. I think it would be something like, I give myself permission to pause and listen before I react. Saying that feels calming, like it's something I can come back to when things start to feel too loud again.
I give myself permission to pause. So shall we give you permission to pause today in this coaching?
Yeah, I'd really like that. Just saying yes to that feels meaningful. It feels like I'm choosing to slow things down on purpose instead of waiting until I'm completely overwhelmed.
Well, I'm going to take that cue, Sam. We're going to slow this down. I'm going to honor that yes. And let's discover together in partnership what this means for you.
That feels really supportive. I notice myself trusting the process more instead of bracing for what's next. Slowing it down together makes it feel less lonely, like I don't have to carry this all by myself. I'm curious about what we'll discover too. And for the first time in a while, that curiosity feels gentle rather than stressful.
I'd love to know where that gentleness happens for you physically. Just scan your body for a moment and tell me where it's showing up.
Okay, when I check in, it's mostly in my chest and shoulders. They feel softer, like they're not pulled up toward my ears anymore. There's also a warmth there, almost like a small exhale I didn't realize I was holding. My stomach still feels a bit tight, but it's quieter, less knotted.
So I invite you just to continue to breathe in that gentler way and allow your chest and your shoulders to relax even more as you pause here with me, slowing down entirely.
Yeah. As I breathe into that, it feels like the tension is melting a bit more. My shoulders drop another notch, and there's this sense of settling, like I'm arriving somewhere instead of rushing through. There's a quietness now, not empty, just calm. It feels safe to be here. Pause like this.
It is safe to be here. This is your time entirely. This is your pause, Sam. Thank you so much. I have trained ChatGPT in the ICF competencies and in my InnerLifeSkills approach to meeting those competencies. And I'm going to just now finish off our video by asking for its summary. It's now experienced being the client, and to give a contrast between the first set of examples and the second set for your final takeaway.
Yes, and I'll keep it very short and clean, just as an experiment. In the first set, the coaching often slipped out of an ICF-aligned stance by centering the coach's perspective. You normalized, minimized, advised, reframed prematurely, or asked solution-focused questions before the client had space to process. From an ICF lens that weakened, maintains a coaching mindset, cultivates trust and safety, and listens actively, because Sam's experience was subtly judged, compared, or rushed. In the second set, the shift was clear. You stayed with Sam's language, reflected meaning and emotion, invited body awareness, and let insight emerge from the client rather than steering it. That demonstrated strong evidence of cultivating trust and safety. Active listening evokes awareness and facilitates client growth, especially through pacing, permission, and partnership rather than direction. If I had to name the core difference in one line, the first set tried to manage the client's experience. The second trusted the client's experience to lead.
Thank you. That's super helpful, and I'm sure the people watching the video will appreciate your insights.
You're very welcome. I'm really glad it was useful. You created a clear, teachable contrast, and the way you embodied the difference will land strongly for people watching, especially those learning to feel the shift rather than just understand it conceptually. If you decide to add another layer later, like naming micro moments or showing a repair in real time, that could be powerful too.
Remember that if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to put another demonstration up for you so that you can watch another one. And the series of life coaching demonstrations is here to support your journey, whether you're ICF credentialed or not, whether that's even a part of your plans. Certainly lots of gems, hopefully, to strengthen your ability to hold space for people and to create meaningful change.